Downing Street has refused to confirm whether Phase 2, that's the bit to Manchester and Crewe, will go ahead, as costs are expected to top £100 billion. It's thought the government will pull the plug on this project this week after the Defence Secretary, Grant Shapps, told the BBC that it would be crazy not to review the railway line given the inflation and the overspend so far. But the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, says that Northerners are being treated like second-class citizens when it comes to transport. Now, Lynn, does Andy Burnham have a point?
Yeah, I can understand why he's saying this, because I think many people outside of the London bubble do feel forgotten oftentimes. However, we need to have a look at why it's almost taken 71 billion and we haven't really progressed with this. You know, since 2010, the conversation...
Can you just, big up that figure? 71 billion, right? That's what's been spent. If they pull the plug, that's what's lost. That's
my only concern. It's like, what do we have to show for it? We've come this far. Not sure if it is that far. But I do think we have a duty to the North, to the Midlands, to really build infrastructure as well as transportation links.
Yeah. Henry?
I mean, you see regional differences in lots of our European neighbours, you know, France, Germany, Italy. But the way they get around this is by having great infrastructure and making sure that the investment and the economic powerhouses are not just in one part of the country, like London. Right. And so if you look at Paris to Strasbourg, that's a journey of about 300 miles. You can do that on a TGV, a train Grand Vitesse, in 1 hour, 45 minutes, 300 miles. Right. And you can pay about €15, £12. London to Manchester, takes just over 2 hours. Costs you it could be about £50 one
More
way.
if you buy it on the day. It's a fortune.
It's even worse. And as a result of that, you don't get the flexibility, the movement, the business generated from one part of the country to another. And Rishi Sunak is a Northern MP. His constituency is in Yorkshire. He's the one who convinced Boris Johnson to back Northern Powerhouse Rail. You know, it doesn't surprise me that people like Michael Heseltine, who believed in a big industrial policy, George Osborne, the former Chancellor, betraying.
But didn't it start under Gordon Brown, the sort of declaration that we're going to build infrastructure into North?
That's right. It started under a Labour government, but it was under David Cameron in 2013 that MPs voted for it overwhelmingly. And it was Boris Johnson who talked about levelling up. What better way to level up than through infrastructure and spreading the wealth around the country? So I'm not surprised that Andy Burnham, King of the North, feels this is a betrayal.
King of the North. I mean, so far we've got a station, Old Oak Common, that doesn't go to London. Yeah, so that's in West London. That's got as far as Birmingham in 48 minutes. The other thing I don't understand, I just put it to the two of you. You know, imagine if this were kind of a commercial deal. It wasn't government, right? The original budget was predicted to be 30 billion. We're now at 106 billion. Now, I understand costs go over when, for example, you're going to build a great big building. But isn't this evidence that what government tends to do, it does expensively and badly in this country? I mean, the Swiss managed to do it, like you say, there was previous investment in France. Why are we so bad at this?
Well, we were talking about this before. How can we, especially post-Brexit, whether you were Remain or Leave, how can we ever say that, you know, we are going to level up, we're still Great Britain, we're the future? When you have places like China, I understand politically they're extremely different, but it's taken us so long, it's so expensive. And I think NIMBYism has got a huge part to play, not in my backyard, which is probably adding to the costs of, you know, convoluted planning and so on and so forth. Yeah. And I think all of that needs to stop. Yeah.
Well, what's interesting about Rishi Sunak's position is, didn't he say only a week or so ago, I'm going to be a Prime Minister who thinks long-term, away with all this short-termism and denialism? Well, this is an extremely short-term move. And this is why the likes of Heseltine and Osborne have said in the Times today, this is wrong. You know, the Chinese think decades ahead. Right. We need to think long-term.
Get them
the infrastructure we put down now will be there for 200 years.
We need to get them to build it.
You're saying it's about the short-termism of governments wanting to be elected, saving money here in order to, rob Peter to pay Paul. Yeah. There's some suggestion it's going to create 22,000 jobs. Very interested in what you have to say, Lynn, about this being not in my backyard NIMBYism. There's lots of people on the other side of this. Joe included, I think Joe, is he here? He'll be coming on it. Joe?
Morning, Rob.
Good morning. How are you this morning? Are you a NIMBY? Is this not in your backyard? I can see you've got your flag saying stop HS2.
Yeah, because it's a white elephant, Rob.
What do you mean?
There you go. The whole thing has basically been driven by the construction industry. This NIMBYism charge, it's ridiculous because they the costs have gone up on the southern end, and it's all because of these horrible NIMBYs. The original plan for HS2 through London was an overland route. That's how idiotic this was right at the start. Arup drew up plans, and HS2, they said, it can go next to the Central Line through West London. No, it can't. The original plan drawn up by the Department for Transport with Arup was to have 5 years of roadworks on the North Circular at Hanger Lane. That's how ridiculous this was.
Joe, help me. Just let me interrupt you for listen, because it can't be your campaign's political broadcast. I just want to understand it, and I think it's important that people get your point of view simply, right? What I don't understand, just wait a second. What I don't understand is, how does this get signed off? No, you don't need to squint. I might actually be with you for a second. Here's the thing. What I need to know is how do you explain to the general public how this gets signed off by department after department, because the name keeps changing, where they spend not millions, but not tens of millions, billions of pounds in public money doing this, if you say it was flawed, in fact, it was incompetent and ill-conceived from the beginning? How does the money get signed off?
Because it has the worst thing possible in British politics. It has cross-party support, which means that there is no scrutiny, and what scrutiny there is ignored. For example, the government's own Infrastructure and Projects Authority have rated HS2 as red, unachievable. Right, it was rated as amber red, at serious risk for the best part of a decade, and they completely ignore that. They ignore the investigations of the National Audit Office. The Parliamentary Health Standards Ombudsman has declared HS2 as guilty of maladministration a number of times, and all of these concerns they just get written off, and the costs keep going up because this whole thing, it was put forward by the construction industry, and they came up with a number that they thought would be politically palatable to get it through.
Can I just
and that's 33 billion.
Wait a second. Just listen to Lin's question.
Can I just ask quickly? Okay. I'm all for people saying no, stop, don't go ahead. But then what would be your alternative? Because we know that the North have felt shut out since time immemorial. They need these connective routes for transportation and for growth. So what's the alternative, as opposed to you just saying no, scrap it?
Well, if you want to improve the economy of the North, you spend the money in the North. You don't make it faster and easier to get to London. This is the thing. When you look at every single piece of international evidence, it says that making it easier to get to London means that more economic activity will be drawn to London. If you want to improve the economy of the North, you spend the money on inter-urban transport within the towns and cities. That's what the vast majority of passengers anywhere, not just the North, anywhere.
Stay where you are. Wait a second. Stay where you are, Joe. Joe, just stay where you are for a second. Calm down for a second and have a listen, because I want Louisa from Liverpool. What's your view? Do you think it would be better for you to be able to get over to Manchester or wherever it is and then get down to London in an hour and 10 minutes?
Yes, absolutely. And I think Sunak and his followers are categorically betraying the North of England. I categorically reiterate what Andy Burnham said about an hour ago at 6 o'clock this morning on ITV, because I watched it all. I'm a very proud British citizen, and we should show the rest of the world that we care about all ends of our country, and there's always been this north-south divide. I'm 58, and it's been massive, this divide. It's ridiculous. And I promise you, my dears and my listeners, categorically, this is so important that we keep the North of England on the plan of action for the HS2, categorically.
What do you have to say? Just out of interest, Louisa, that the answer isn't getting to London an hour quicker. What matters, which is the point made by Joe, is better investment up in the North. So links within cities, investments for manufacturing, etc. That's really the key to solving some of the economic woes of that part of the country, rather than sort of building a fast train. What difference does it make if you can come down to London, an hour and 20 minutes quicker, is what Joe would say.
Okay, then. Yes, absolutely. I agree with Joe again. I do agree with Joan. I mean, I'm not mad on us spending billions of pounds on a train journey, just like you say, for a 90-minute journey, to cut it. So, but at the end of the day, I totally agree with what Joe said. I did listen to everything he said. And yes, if the North were received sufficient investment, that would make things better. But because we will just be put on the back window again.
Well, let's see. Well, I hear what you say. You say this is evidence of the North being ignored yet again and shut out, and you don't disagree with Joe. Joe, come back to Lisa. She seemed to disagree with you and then sort of agree with some of your point about investment in the North.
Yeah, because that's what's really needed is investment in the North. You can't leave the North behind. The idea, we're talking, HS2 is meant to be now for levelling up. It's been around that long that it was, originally for the previous slogan, rebalancing the economy. And the last thing you do is spend all these billions of pounds making it easier to get to London. That money needs to be spent in the north of England, in other areas that need that investment.
Just
like
last
like
point to
Wales.
Henry, we've got about a minute to break. So
very, very quickly, Joe, you keep talking, and Robbie also said this, that it's about getting to London. Some of us leave London, millions of us leave London and would leave London more regularly if it were quicker to get to Liverpool, Manchester, Leeds, Glasgow. Some of us set businesses up in the north. Some of us would live in the north if it was quicker to get out of London.
Possibility. Joe, the fight continues. Looks like, it seems to me anyway, good news, you're smiling there. It looks like you're winning. So, might be time to... looks like the government are waving your white flag. You'd be happy about that, Joe?